main reason I'm making this video is because we have a legit source who has came out with some big time information regarding Billy Napier. This is not only going to affect his future, it's going to affect Florida's future. And that is such a crazy concept to me. You can get fired from your job from being terrible, and they pay you millions and millions of dollars. This situation is causing a big mess on Twitter. There's a lot going on and there's a lot to it. Let me establish some ground rules before we go any farther. I am not here to talk about the Texas A&M and Florida game. That's not what this video is. This is not the recap. This is more of a really breaking news type of video and a developing story video. We are here to talk about what is unfolding with Billy Napier right in front of our eyes. On Twitter, there's been a lot of these fake accounts and troll accounts come out with the quote-unquote reports that Billy Napier is going to be fired Sunday morning. A lot of these accounts, when they tweet this out, fans see it, they see the verified checkmark, which, by the way, for those of you who don't know, now on Twitter, you can buy a verified checkmark. And that's what sucks about it nowadays, because back in the day, if you saw somebody tweet out something with a verified checkmark, you knew, oh, that's a legit source, I can trust it. But now anybody can have it, and you see one of these accounts with that blue checkmark, and they got your team's logo, you just kind of assume, oh, well, it's got to be true, right? I'm here to tell you right now, and I shouldn't have to tell you this, don't believe everything you see on the internet, especially Twitter. All these accounts tweeting out that it's confirmed Billy Napier is going to be fired Sunday morning, they have no idea. I just wanted to clarify on all that. Now, it doesn't mean he won't be fired Sunday, but all these accounts tweeting it out, these are not legit sources. With that being said, let's also go over this real briefly. Is Billy Napier on the hot seat? Is he in a god-awful position and predicament? Yes, he is. His football team isn't even competing in these games. I've said it before, I'm going to say it again. These Florida fans aren't too upset they lost to Miami, and although they wanted to beat Texas A&M, they're not highly upset they lost to Texas A&M. What they're frustrated with and infuriated with and really upset about is the fact they're not even competing in these ball games. If Billy Napier lost to Miami on a walk-off field goal and you lost to A&M by 7 points, even if it was a home game, and you competed, I think we're having a different conversation here. Actually, scratch that. We're not having this conversation at all. But the fact we're only a couple games into the season and Florida's schedule is only going to get harder from here on out, the writing's on the wall. Napier's done such an awful job that he might get fired before the season's even up. The main reason I'm making this video is because we have a legit source who has came out with some big time information regarding Billy Napier. This is not only going to affect his future, it's going to affect Florida's future. It has been officially announced. The Board of Trustees at Florida, they're having a meeting Sunday morning, more than likely when you're watching this video. This has been confirmed from multiple people, so you don't have to worry whether or not it's true or not. Here's what we don't know, and it's the $1 million question. What are they going to talk about at this meeting? I already know everybody's going to say, well, Matt, do you think they're going to talk about firing him at the meeting? And of course they're going to talk about firing him. That's the topic of discussion, right? It's not a matter of if we're going to fire Mr. Billy Napier. It's a matter of when. When do we pull the trigger? That's what they're going to be talking about. If they're really pissed, if they're really upset, they could pull the trigger as soon as, I don't know, Monday, Tuesday, maybe even Sunday. I don't know. For the Florida fans that want this nightmare to hurry up and be over with, firing Billy Napier ASAP, I'm not saying I disagree with that, but it's not all sunshine, rainbows, and butterflies, and it's not as easy as, okay, you fire him and you bring in a new head coach. I'm going to remind you, the football season just started. What does that mean? All these other big-time head coaches that Florida wants and they're going to try to pursue, they're coaching other schools. That's why most times you don't want to fire your head coach until later in the season with a couple games to go, or preferably after the season. What would I do? Well, I live by this philosophy, and it's the greatest analogy I can use when talking about the Billy Napier situation. They say the best time to plant a tree was 20 years ago. The second best time to plant a tree is today, which means in other terms, although, yeah, you can look back at what happened the past year with Billy Napier and say, man, we should have fired him last year or we shouldn't have hired him at all. It doesn't matter. It's in the past. You can't change it. However, what you can change is what you do today in the present. I said they should have fired him at the end of season number 1 at Florida. Everybody knows that. I've been saying that on the channel for years. If you fire him right now, does it leave you in this horrendous situation? Absolutely. But good gosh almighty, why would you want to keep him any longer? Of course, though, Florida's not going to listen to me, which doesn't bother me not even to the slightest, because as an Alabama fan, hey, I think Billy Napier's doing a great job. They should sign him to a 15-year, $1 billion extension. Obviously, I'm joking, but the fact Florida even signed this guy in the first place has me questioning, Do they even know what they're doing in the front office? And let's talk about that while I'm thinking about it. What about Strickland? That guy's got to go too. When you try to get a weed out of your garden or out of your grass, wherever, where do you pull it? At the root of it. You don't pull a weed at the top, at the middle, and still leave it there. No, you got to get to the root of the problem, and the root of the problem is Strickland. And if you really want to have a conversation, it goes deeper than Strickland, but I don't want to dive into all that. Point is, Billy Napier, of course, he's got to go, but you got to get rid of Strickland too. One thing that's key and we need to throw in there, if Florida does want to fire Billy Napier, they're going to have to write him a $26 million check. To be honest, I've seen worse. Have you seen Mike Norvell's? His is way higher than that, and we all remember Jimbo Fisher's. And Florida's got the guap, trust me. A couple of their alumni boosters would be willing to pay that. It's just going to come down to, like I said, a timing thing. When do you want to pull the trigger? I hate to say this, especially for the players and the fans' sake, but this year's over, man. It sucks. I genuinely feel bad for Florida football fans because you look forward to college football for 7 months in the offseason and it arrives, and just like that, back to a living nightmare. Essentially speaking, Florida fans have to wait another whole year to just have good hopes about this football program. Screw making a bowl game. Is Florida going to even win 3 to 4 games this year? The reason I say that is for a combination of two things. One, they have one of the hardest schedules in the nation. And number two, they're not a good football team. Combine both of those things, and what do you get? A team that goes about 3-9, 4-8, maybe 5-7. Who knows? I've seen some people say, "Whoa, if you fire Billy Napier, you might lose DJ Lagway too." And I don't really agree with that because I don't think Lagway committed to Florida just because of Billy Napier. At this meeting on Sunday morning, I honestly believe these bozos calling the shot. This is what I think is going to happen. They're going to give Napier the remainder of the season. They're going to say, "All right, guys. It's over. Doesn't matter what happens from here on out. Napier, he's getting fired after that final and last game." I'm not a fan of that. Maybe some of you are, and I'm curious. Let me know in the comment section, Florida fans. How do you feel about all this? Hopefully, y'all are starting to turn the tide and understand your boy Matt was right about Billy Napier all along. Not SEC material. He's like Brian Harsin. And I'm not going to sit up here and say it's sad because it's not. Whenever he gets fired, he's going to be a multi-gazillionaire. And that is such a crazy concept to me. You can get fired from your job from being terrible, and they pay you millions and millions of dollars. Any other job you're terrible at, no, you get fired and they're not going to pay you anything. You're just fired. Imagine being the worst in the industry at whatever you do. You're a terrible employee, and your company writes you a $20 million check. For that reason alone, I'm not going to say I feel bad for a guy that's about to get $20 million. Anyways, though, getting back on track with Napier as a person, I've always said this. He seems like a good dude. He's just not that good of a coach. He doesn't have that fire intensity, and I get it. He's very stoic, but you got to show some passion. I've never seen, now that I think about it, Billy Napier just hype up his guys after a big player. Anything like that. Maybe it's happened. I just haven't seen it. But, for example, Kirby Smart today, I mean, he was yelling at his guys all night long trying to pump them up. Billy Napier, I don't see him doing any of that, and that's what he lacks. How do you expect your guys to go to war for you when you're not going to war for them? I don't think the players take him serious. And it's a weird concept because all of them come out and say they like him, but there's a big difference from liking your head coach as a buddy. And you know what? That's the problem, actually. They view Billy Napier as a buddy, as a friend. When in reality, some of the best coaches I've had and you've ever had in your life, you know what I'm about to get into, are guys that you respect and fear. It's not in a bad way either. It's in a good way. Billy Napier's too nice, and whether people like this or not, it's the cold hard truth. You need a guy like Urban Meyer. Is he a shady guy off the field? Yeah, but Urban Meyer was born to coach college football. It's crazy to say back in the day, but it was dang near about 20 years ago when Urban Meyer and Tim Tebow was running all over the SEC. That was just a different team, man. That was a different culture. Urban Meyer was running that Florida football program like a dang military camp. Was Urban Meyer a little insane? Yes, but it worked. Let me offer you some inside information. I'm being sarcastic, by the way. Florida has 4- and 5-star recruits in their backyard. You know all these speed demons you see at the wide receiver position and these lockdown corners? They come from Florida. Florida is a football-producing machine of a state. This is not a talent issue, not by any stretch of the imagination. You're getting the same guys as Miami. This is you have a terrible leader of men. situation. Whether people believe this or not, your players of your favorite college football team, they take on the persona of the head coach. If your head coach is a little psycho, a little insane, he's an a-hole at times like a Nick Saban, Kirby Smart, Urban Meyer, they're like that. However, if your head coach is a really nice guy, he's a pushover, and yeah, he's just kind of happy to be there, like, oh, I don't know, Billy Napier, your players take on that same persona. These Florida football players give off the vibes of, oh man, I'm just happy to be out here and I hope we play a great game. Whereas an Urban Meyer Florida-led football team was walking into stadiums thinking that they don't just want to just win the game, they want to destroy their opponents. It was quite literally a mission for Florida to just steamroll everybody, and it was a lifestyle. It felt like it was life or death for Florida back then. Now, no, these players don't care. And when players don't care, that's when you know, yeah, you got a culture problem. This is a developing story and situation. We should hear more about this in the next 24 to 48 hours, so stay tuned. I'm curious. Let me know your thoughts down below about that.